Bainbridge Asylum is looking to hire a new director. Applicants beware. Final. Part 1 link Part 2 link Part 3 link Part 4 link Final. Patient Francis Galloway revision. Are you planning on becoming the new director of Bainbridge? No. Too bad. This place could really use someone like you. I can already tell that you're someone I could like. Someone I could trust. Maybe you'll reconsider. Well. In the meantime, let me tell you what you've come to hear. My name is Galloway and I'm 13 years old. I'm here because of what I did at my coming-of-age ceremony. See, my father is a powerful man, with the kind of wealth most people can't even work up in their pitiful imaginations. He gives but a pittance to charity and the world thinks he's the most kind and generous person alive. Sure, he wears the mask well, but it's just so easy to fool people these days. He's actually quite a greedy man. Almost like a Wendigo in his hunger for endless riches. He's delved deeply into the darkest places imaginable to attain all that he has, including a son who would be worthy of taking on such a sizable inheritance. I was meant to prove my worth on the day I turned 13. Most of it was pretty simple stuff, like basic rituals and routine sacrifices. I got through most of that without breaking a sweat. I killed 24 supposedly pure souls and was quite ready to kill the 25th that would seal the deal and end the ceremony. Yeah. I know that must be shocking to someone like you. The look on your face says it all. But you have to understand that I was birthed through a dark ritual and practically raised in a sea of blood. I don't go around killing people for fun. Mind you, stealing a life is a very serious undertaking with consequences far beyond what you might imagine. But I don't flinch away from murder when it's necessary. Every sacrifice serves a purpose. The problem that night was that when my father presented my little sister Fanny as the final sacrifice, I refused. Fanny had apparently been given life for that purpose. But that's not what I saw growing up. From the time I was 2, she had been there with me, eyes filled with love for me from the very start. I can't say I loved her, not really knowing if I'm capable of love, but I just always wanted to protect her. She was such a delicate little thing, so soft and sweet-scented. She was able to bring a little light into my darkest moments, and was the only reason I ever knew laughter. And the way she always looked up to me, no matter what I did, I would kill for her. I did kill for her. In fact, I took out all 8 of my father's followers who had prepared my sister for the sacrifice. And I tried to kill my father. My father is stronger than he looks. I had jammed my knife hard into his chest before he backhanded me forcefully enough to send me flying across the room, where I hit the wall and fell unconscious to the floor. Now, mind you, my father was not upset about my having put him in the hospital with such a deadly attack. On the contrary, he was pleased to announce that I had proven myself worthy of my inheritance. He had thought I might have been too sentimental, and therefore weak, when I had refused to kill my sister. However, when I tried to kill him instead, my father realized that it hadn't been a matter of love as much as a matter of preference. I wasn't unable to sever a blood tie. After all, the reason I'm here now is because of my disobedience to my father. I'm very much in line to inherit his vast wealth and knowledge. But my willful act had to be punished. So, my father and his followers said and did what they had to in order to get me committed to Bainbridge Asylum as a violently delusional patient. They figured it would be the perfect place for me to continue my development and education in the dark arts, given its history and reputation, while also serving to remind me of my place as my father's progeny. There was one unexpected drawback. However, the asylum's director, Bainbridge, is a very unique structure. It lives, it breathes, it eats, it follows its own logic, and it bestows power upon the one who is meant to care for it. The director of the asylum becomes the almighty king of this domain, and it's easy for a weak man to let such power get to his head. The last director was a greedy tyrant who made many decisions based on whatever met his fancy at the time. Bainbridge had no objections to this. so long as its own needs were met. However, my father very much objected when the director would not give in to my father's demands. After fruitless arguing back and forth, my father finally decided that it was time to make the director disappear. My father is able to come visit me one-on-one anytime he wants now. Admittedly, it's a nice change from the strictness of the situation before. My little sister Fanny, whom my father has given away, even gets a foster parent to bring her for a visit sometimes. I really didn't like that last director, especially the way he would look at me, like I was just some bug he could crush underfoot whenever he was ready. I'm sure I'll see him again sometime in the future. And won't he know fear then? My father doesn't yet realize what he's actually done here. But I will wait until I'm older and stronger before I clue him in. See, I don't need his fortune and power anymore. Really. I never did. I found what I need at Bainbridge Asylum and, as it turns out, this place needs me too. Whatever my father did to the previous director of Bainbridge messed up the already tenuous balance of the asylum's energy. Thanks to the resident witch of E Ward, I've been able to wander about the asylum at night, feeling its walls, learning its secrets, calming its fevers, and helping it to heal. In return, Bainbridge has promised me a much greater inheritance than my father could ever offer. I'm not able to accept it yet, being so young and inexperienced. But when the time comes, I will be the greatest director Bainbridge Asylum has ever had. I will be the only director thereafter. Of course, I didn't understand the magic of this place when I first got here. I dare say, the first time I truly knew fear was in the sub-basement of the asylum. Shortly after I was taught how to leave my room at night. The sub-basement is full of storage rooms that resemble old patient rooms. I'm sure you probably know that's because they had been in use as patient rooms back in the dark days of psychiatry. It was my knowledge of the horrors of those times that made me decide to have a look at the sub-basement and see if there were any interesting relics left behind. I had heard about a number of horrific paranormal events that were supposed to have happened here, but I didn't take much stock in what crazy people had to say about a mental institution. I was interested in history, though. So off I went to look for the sub-basement. The only way to get to the sub-basement was through a door in the morgue. Now, I know what you're thinking: what kind of creepy adolescent would wander around a morgue at night? Especially in a place like Bainbridge. I will admit to being quite cocky and ignorant upon my arrival to the asylum. I had already visited a number of dark and haunted places in my short lifetime and had already encountered many spirits and the like. I was sure this building was full of such things given its past. But nothing I'd encountered had ever been able to hurt me before. I didn't realize how different Bainbridge was and how much I had relied on my father's protection from things that really could have done me harm. Well, live and learn. Right. Finding the morgue was easy, as the large sign above its doors is one of the first things you see when you walk into the basement. I wasn't surprised to see the room was lit when I looked through one of the door windows. Every light in the asylum, save for in the patient rooms, is kept on at all times. That's very convenient for exploring, but can make it more difficult to sneak around. I was, however, surprised to find the doors to the morgue unlocked. Given that the morgue is known to be off limits at night, this might well have served as a warning to me. But all I saw was good fortune and opportunity. I walked right in, knowing that I shouldn't have any problems with the living there. The morgue was a large, spacious room of stainless steel and ceramic tile. It had 3 tables with drainage attached, which were permanent fixtures, and lots of other tables on wheels. About 5 or 6 of the tables were occupied by sheet-covered bodies, which I found odd since I'd assumed these things would have been packed away in a freezer or something. Still, I ignored the bodies and searched the room until I found the door to the sub-basement. Before I could open it, I heard a shuffling sound behind me. I turned around and saw a corpse standing beside the table it must have previously been occupying. Oh, what? A ghost, I said dismissively. acting like I was some kind of fearless hotshot. I'm almost embarrassed by it now. The dead man, wearing the pale blue scrubs of a patient, stared at me with a slack expression on his bloated face, slowly moving to lift his arm and point in the direction of the sub-basement door. I rolled my eyes and turned away from him, bringing my attention back to the door. Yeah, I'm already headed that way. Genius. I smirked, leaving the dead and the living behind. I opened the door and entered the dimly lit stairwell that led to my intended destination. I even closed the door behind me, truly believing there was nothing to fear. Once I exited the stairwell into the sub-basement, I began to wonder if I'd made a mistake. The lights were off down there, which shouldn't have been the case if what I'd heard was true. Not only that, but the place was lit up by the flickering firelight of candles that were strategically placed up and down the corridor I faced. In the very center of the corridor stood a beautifully crafted altar of marble and bone, which definitely should not have been there but looked like it had sat there forever. At the head of the altar stood a cloaked figure wielding a large silver axe with golden accents along its handle. I didn't like the feel of this entire situation, so I turned to go back the way I came. Blocking my exit was a naked boy whose face was nothing but a sheet of smooth skin except for the right eye that stared at me. My heart skipped a beat as I stumbled backwards in surprise. The icy chill of fear ran up my spine as I collided into another boy, who only had a nose as his solitary facial feature. That wasn't right. I shouldn't have been able to experience physical contact with a spirit. Even minor demons had never been able to touch me before. The fleshy contact with that entity made me feel vulnerable, a new and unwanted sensation over which I had no control. I soon found myself surrounded by 6 of these strange children, each of whom had a mostly blank slate for a face and dirty, oily rat's nests for hair on his head. I cried out in terror as they all ran forward and seized me, lifting me with ease and carrying me horizontally toward the altar and the cloaked figure. At this point, I realized that I had been all wrong about this place. It wasn't just haunted or possessed. This asylum was something else entirely. Something that could hurt me. Something that could and would kill me. If the axeman at the altar was any indication, I tried to free myself from the iron grip of these malformed kids, but to no avail as they marched me steadfastly toward my inevitable end. I cried, feeling desperation clenching at my guts when I saw the axeman lift his weapon high above his head in anticipation of my arrival at the altar. I couldn't see his face beneath his hood, but I found myself imagining the worst kind of demon under there. I closed my eyes tightly and began to scream. In the darkness beneath my eyelids, a bright light glowed into existence and I saw a vision of my sister's face. Fanny's beautiful green eyes gazed upon me gently, releasing me from my fear and reassuring me that everything would be okay. I opened my eyes as my backside was placed upon the altar and I felt empathy. This place, whatever it was, needed me. Every sacrifice serves a purpose. Perhaps this was my reason for existing. I relaxed and offered up my chest to the deadly blade. To my surprise, the cloaked figure hesitated and then lowered the axe to the floor. He seemed to ponder over me for a moment, before lowering his head to hover just above my face. Being so close, I could now see that there was nothing but darkness beneath that hood. But from that darkness came a voice, ancient and eternal. It was then that Bainbridge taught me of my true purpose and everything that was to come. Yes, being created under similar circumstances and belonging to the darkness itself, the asylum and I are fated to become as one. The next director needs to know this. He or she will need to know that his or her power will be a temporary fixture, and that when it's time, my rise will be immediate and terrible. The director will have my thanks and will be greatly rewarded for having fulfilled the stewardship contract. In fact, I plan to give that person the wealth that my father had planned for me to continue hoarding upon his death. Is that not generous of me? Will you not consider becoming the next director? Oh, I do hope it will be you. Bainbridge and I. We like you. Come join our team. You won't regret it. Oh shit, I thought this was a freaky or remote jobs ad. Final. Aw. I binge read the lot and loved it.